Hello and welcome to the May 8th Historic District Commission meeting. This is our second meeting of the month and we still have a good sized agenda, so it makes the second meeting worth it. I will introduce our commission. On my far right is our alternate Larry Booz.
Good evening, how are you?
We have Dan Brown.
Good evening.
We have Martin Ryan.
Good evening.
Our vice chair, Margot Doring, is unable to come tonight. I'm the chair, Reagan Rudig. We have Isaac Gilbo from the Planning Department.
Good evening.
John Wyckoff.
Good evening.
Our City Council Representative, Rich Blaylock.
Good evening.
And David Adams.
Good evening.
All right, so the board's action in these matters, the meeting, has been deemed to be quasi-judicial in nature. If any person believes any member of the board has a conflict of interest, that issue should be raised at this point or it will be deemed waived. All right. First, to start off, we have the approval of 3 sets of minutes, which are the minutes from our work sessions on talking about ordinance revisions for solar panels in the historic district. Does anybody have any comments or changes or anything to these minutes? All right. Could I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Those are approved. Oh, I do want to ask, is Margot on?
Excuse me. Yes, actually,
Okay.
Margot.
So Margot is on Zoom, so we can, I suppose she can vote until she has to leave. She just can't be.
Until I can't anymore.
Right.
That is Margot. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have 5 administrative approvals to go through tonight, so fewer than usual, but it looks like we might want to pull one of them.
Yes, so let me just maybe briefly explain. So item number 5, 425 Islington Street. The project has changed a couple of times since we got the package sent out initially at the last minute. So therefore, I think it's probably best that we maybe table this item to the June meeting. So we could either do that. We can. I can go over the proposal if you wish, but I feel that we should table any voting until June.
Right. We all got last minute changes just this afternoon. So, and this is one that we've seen a bunch of times. We could also, because it's kind of a complicated project and we've worked on several different options, we can also request that they just come back for a real public hearing so that we can have a real discussion, or we can just continue it as an administrative approval. So.
Yep. So those 2 options are.
I will take whatever motion the board pleases.
Are we postponing it or continuing?
We either postpone it to the June meeting, or we ask them to come back for just an actual public hearing so that we can talk about it fully.
I would like to have the motion that that they would come back for a public hearing.
Okay. Second. All right. All those in favor? Oh, actually, now because Margot is on Zoom, we have to do a roll call. So, Dan?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Margot?
Yes.
Okay. John?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
All right, chair votes yes. So we will request that they just come back for a public hearing next month, so we can actually sit down and really talk about this somewhat complex window replacement project. All right, so now let's go to the easier ones.
Yes. Sorry, 1 second. I will get my screen shared here. All right, so our first administrative approval item on the agenda is 111 Market Street. The applicant is seeking approval for the replacement of 4 windows. They are actively experiencing water damage due to leaking. Of course, we've had an unreasonable amount of rain for the last year and a half almost, and it's really starting to cause problems for the applicant. So as you can see, it's the 2 second and third story windows that are highlighted here. And they are proposed to use a Pella Reserve double hung window with the same grid pattern that is currently there. And it does look like half screens would be installed.
Yes.
Does anyone have questions on this particular application? Okay.
Moving on.
Item number 2 is 236 Union Street. This project has been before the commission a couple of times. Initially, it was for the entire structure that's there now, the home. And they came back just a few months ago with a work session and public hearing for an addition. What they're here today for is to simply retract the roof line on that addition by about 5 feet. And as you can see, this is what was approved back in September. So this is the area that they are retracting. And you can see the proposed area as revised now. And so again, just this is the approved view and the now new proposed. And does anyone have further questions on this particular administrative approval? Okay. We will move right along to item number 3, which is number 30 Gardner Street. Again, this was before the commission recently with a work session and public hearing to do a quite extensive renovation work in the rear of the home. During some exploratory work in the highlighted roof area that you can see on the screen, they found that there was inadequate structural support, and they had to actually go ahead and rebuild from rafters up. So they haven't necessarily changed the roof. They just simply wanted to make sure that it was on file that they had to actually remove and rebuild that section of roofing. And it does keep in line with the original approval. Any further questions? Okay. So that will bring us to the last administrative approval item that we will discuss for tonight. This is 66 South Street, Unit 2. This project was before the commission a couple of times. We just had a public hearing where we approved the trim for the project, and we just asked that the applicant come back with the final Marvin window that we had talked about, a window schedule, and all of the resized windows that would be on the or that would be proposed for the property. So as you can see here, those folks did go ahead and submit a window schedule. It has each and every window labeled a, let's see, A through E, and those are now labeled on the home as well. So we'll have two Bs, or 2As, 2Bs, DC, and then 3As and the 2Bs there on the side.
1 second.
And then lastly, this final egress window. And then here are just a couple of examples of other Marvin Elevates that have been approved in or near their neighborhood. And do we have further questions on that particular application?
Finally through this project.
All good?
Okay. Fantastic. So if you want, I will just kind of really quickly read through those one more time.
I don't know that you need to. We don't even have any,
Yeah,
none of them have
No
any
stipulations.
stipulations, so.
except for potentially half screens on any windows that would have
They're
screens
all
at
half
66
they're all
South. But,
screens or-
They all say half
yep,
screen,
so
so they're all good.
I think it's part of it. Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Great. So I get a motion to,
Motion to approve as presented.
Second?
all right, roll call again. Dan,
Approved.
Martin,
Approved.
John,
Approved.
Rich,
Yes, approved.
Approved.
and Margot.
Yes.
And chair votes aye, so we're good. All right, thank you. All right, we have one request to postpone, which is public hearing A, Petition of Maximilian Kolbe Hochschwender, owner, for property located at 44 Rogers Street. So need just a motion to postpone that one to, I guess, the June meeting?
The June 5th meeting, yep.
So moved.
All right, one of you
Second.
gets it and seconds it. All right. Roll call again. Dan?
Yes.
Martin?
Approved.
John?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
David?
Aye.
Margot?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. All right. So our first, then, work session public hearing is requested by 95 Daniel Street, LLC owner, for property located at 95 Daniel Street, wherein permission is requested to allow the full demolition and reconstruction of the existing structure, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 107 as Lot 7 and lies within the Character District 4 and Historic Districts. All right, so this is a work session public hearing. Do you want us down at the table? Do you want to talk to us up here in our grand seating?
I mean, we're feeling it's more of a conversation at this point, so we're, happy to sit and discuss it. And
Okay,
Anything to present.
great.
Back to this phone.
You guys mind going down for a discussion?
All right.
more of a discussion.
Hello, so please introduce yourselves.
Mark Giannini from Accounting Architecture.
Sean Peters.
Thanks for meeting with us again. Obviously, we were here last month for the initial kind of presentation, and then last week we all visited the site, almost everyone. We had the opportunity to visit the site and see for yourselves the pictures and what has been previously discussed as far as the existing condition. We had some takeaways from the last work session meeting that we had here with you guys, but really we wanted to get more of your input from the walkthrough, since that wasn't really an opportunity to have a discussion there, and then talk about next steps. And also, I know third-party engineers were kind of discussed at one point, so we don't really know how that process would work and what steps need to be taken. So.
All right. Sure, well, thank you for opening up the property so that we could do a walkthrough and see it with our own eyes. Does anybody want to start off? Comments, takeaways from the walkthrough? Did that help? Did that?
And I'm sorry, I did not get to the walkthrough. Just arrived from San Diego. Excuse me. And I was like this.
Yes?
Well, yeah, I think the walkthrough is very helpful. Just put eyes on it and to really see the conditions. Did you want to make a case based on that walkthrough for why you want to pursue the total removal?
I mean, I feel like we've kind of went through that last month.
Okay.
And then we were able to show you, in person, some of the situation, some of the, and also in that time, we've also had input from the building department. And so, I guess we'd like some more input from you guys so we can, at least after this meeting, hopefully go away, come up with some not direction from you guys, but come up with some ideas that we would then come back and present, the direction that the applicant is looking to go to based on feedback and stuff.
Well, I just to follow up, I saw the conditions, and it's not going to be easy, but I can still see that envelope being saved and restructured, reframed. And last meeting I was asking for options, and I'd be open to options that keeps the envelope on just 3 of the 4 sides. Maybe you do something with the back of the building to make this more feasible as a project. So that's what I was hoping to see. So for me, this isn't enough to change my mind. Even the site visit is pretty much what I expected.
And even though I'm not voting, I would actually echo 100% what you had said. It actually reminded me of work I had had contractors do on our own house with damaged subfloors and stuff like that on the second floor. Crooked basements, posts and beams to straighten them out. I view it as something fixable, and I'm just gonna say it. I feel like, even though I was not here when you initially came by and wanted to demolish it, okay, the answer was no. Then you start about renovation, and now you want to demolish it again. And I would venture to say, if I stripped out everything in my house, I could probably get a demolition permit too from the building inspector, because he'd say, oh, now that you've taken everything out, now you got to bring everything up to code. And I think had this project been approached piecemeal, whether you want to do the inside first or the outside first, I think if you approached it piecemeal, we wouldn't be in the position we're in. And it comes back to my feeling that either you look at Portsmouth's history and you love it, or I'm not saying this is you, or you look at Portsmouth's history and you see dollar signs. And if you love it, you want to preserve it and save it. And I think that's what most people want to do. And that's why we have Strawberry Bank, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, at this point, there's really no profit incentive in the fact that I want to rebuild this completely. It's really more of like a loss mitigation thing at this point. There's no money to be made, so I'm really looking at it as how can I get it done, and what makes the most sense. And every time I look at it and think about rebuilding one wall at a time, I think we're going to end up with the same result at the end of the day. I think it's going to cost me a significant, much larger amount of money to do it in that fashion, and I don't unfortunately see the benefit to the building to do so. So that's really where this is coming from. I really hoped that I could renovate it, and it was mentioned at the walkthrough. Somebody brought up to the building inspector, if you had all the money in the world, could you save this building and remodel it? And I'm not going to argue with the fact that anything is possible. I agree. I don't have all the money in the world, so I want to make this the best project I can, and not end up in a situation where the building just sits here for another 20 years looking like it does now.
Well, if I could jump in and explain a little bit more about the question about the third party. There's another structural engineer coming through, and just looking through our rules, because at the last month's meeting, we requested that there be a third party engineering report by someone who is a qualified historic structural person. And so I've talked to Shanti Wolf, I talked to the planning department to try and figure out how that works. We have the rule that's in our ordinance talks about requesting reports and recommendations for feasibility and stuff like that. And, the commission may request advice from such professionals, educational or cultural other groups as may seem deemed necessary for the determination of a reasonable decision. And so, it says here that we can draw help from people in the city, but it also says the commission may request such technical assistance and consultants as may be deemed necessary to carry out the purpose of this ordinance, subject to funding, if necessary, by the city council. So in talking to the planning director and the inspector, basically your options are, if you can hire another engineer who specializes in historic buildings, and the person that the Historic District Commission has used over the past several years is John Watney of Structures North. He's a very reputable and established structural engineer, and either you pay for it or we can bring it to the city council and try and get funding from the city council to do that. And that just would mean that you wouldn't have to pay for it, but it would mean extra time. So that's sort of the option that we have through our rules to get that extra report. And it seems like from our discussion last month, it would be helpful to those of us who may not be an expert in the structures of historic buildings to just have a little bit more information to go off of. And it may be, we wouldn't know what the result of that report could be. It could go either way, but I think that we would try and respect and certainly appreciate more expert opinions.
City council member.
So we've heard from Shanti Wolf, the chief building inspector. We've heard, obviously, they have Gorham Structural Engineering. Would the next engineer override what they say? I mean, how does this work?
So in the past, they have, but it would just be another opinion that we could take and use as a basis for our decision.
Okay, so it's like going to another doctor, to another doctor,
Exactly.
to another doctor.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm very concerned about adding cost either to the applicant or to every taxpayer in Portsmouth. Obviously, I'd want to save this building. This building's got a lot of history to me. I used to get my hair cut there.
We wanted to talk about that.
But I mean, doing the walkthrough, I don't know what we're saving. That's the hard part, and I understand keeping 3 walls up while he takes one down or lifts, but then the foundation, there's just so much wrong, and I don't know what would be left, except that there wouldn't be that hole in the ground for a month or two or something, and I get that causes people heartache. But I just hate imposing costs to any taxpayer in Portsmouth.
Yeah, I do too.
That's where I'm at. And when the chief building inspector, who is the chief building inspector for the city of Portsmouth, I have to listen to him a little bit. You know what I mean? I can't ignore his opinion. That's just my opinion at this point.
I'm going to dissent on this because I think there's a fundamental difference between a building inspector who, once you strip the walls off, says, bring it all up to code, versus a structural preservationist. We have a preservationist with us, but not a structural preservationist. Those are two fundamentally different animals.
Okay.
And
Well, in the city council, we decide what city staff is there, what budget is there. And right now, we have what we have because that's what we think is appropriate. So right now, if you're suggesting that we should hire, the city needs to create another staff
that's not
member.
what I
then-
said.
No.
That's not what I said.
Okay, please clarify.
Please clarify.
Yes.
If somebody wants to tear down an historic building versus fixing it, I think it needs to be properly justified. And just a building inspector looking at naked walls does not justify it. Again, my house is 1790 with hand-cut wooden beams. If I stripped off all the horsehair plaster and the plaster boards, it would look like that. And I know that because I've done subfloor repairs.
Right. Well, we can't go back in time, so let's try to move forward and be aggressive, right? Because it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, with due respect, subfloor repairs, I mean, that's not a big deal. I mean, I've done that. You can usually lift the subfloor up in a day and replace it, sistering up whatever you need to replace. The fact that the foundation has been taken down below grade, to me, that's a significant problem. So basically, the whole entire first floor in the front of the building has got to be removed. I read it in your report about the porch, and I mean, that's nothing. The porch is nothing. You know, it comes off in 3 hours, and, you know, you either sonotube it or whatever, the porch is fine. Can you build a second story on top of sonotubes? You can, if you use big enough sonotubes. You know that. My whole problem with so I'm thinking that there is a lot of real serious problems with this building that can get involved. But having said that, I don't want to go into my experience, but I have actually saved buildings like this previously. Whether or not they would be saved enough to be get the approval of being a condominium unit, this is the whole problem. When I've saved them, it's for people, you know, and they're going to move in and live in the house, and they're very happy with what I've done. But would it be enough to get the official occupancy permit, especially for something like condominiums, with the insulation value and all that? So, having said that, as far as ripping it down, I cannot see how you can dig a foundation in that close quarter, that close to your other building that you're, you know, having renovated, which is sitting on a stone foundation with probably brick at the top. I could see a lot of problems with that. As far as the cost, I just don't agree with your argument. I really don't. I see, you know, a machine coming in and ripping that down, trying to put a foundation, cement in there, everything. The price would just skyrocket through, whereas just getting the building straightened out, and that can be done. And, you know, all of the studs sistered right down to the sill, possibly new sills all the way around. That could do, so actually, I'm really torn.
Great.
It was a hell of a path you took us down.
Yes, I was going to ask if Margot had any comments. Since I know
Thank
she has
you.
to go.
And I think what John is saying hits to the matter of getting the opinion of somebody who has a completely different approach and saying, how can I preserve and restore an existing structure versus the point of view of the previous engineer, which is simply to assess what is there. And I think one of the problems that the applicant has is that in purchasing the properties originally, it was with an eye and an economic plan to tear it down and to start with something completely different. And so now he finds himself sort of on the back heel trying to figure out how to achieve the same goals that he had when he initially bought the building. And it's unfortunate that that the outcome is not what he had expected it was going to be in terms of the approvals to tear the existing structures down. But this is the situation that we're in now, and I think from my point of view, the only way I can make a clear decision that's a responsible decision both for the city, for the Historic District Commission, and for the applicant is to have the opinion from somebody whose focus is it possible to take the existing conditions and turn it into a safe, viable building? And I don't think any of the information we have right now answers that question very well. So I'm not going to vote to demolition something without more information, and I don't blame the applicant for not wanting to move forward without a plan that works for him. Thank you.
Thanks, Margot.
I just inject something else. I think the last two comments by John and Margot were really, really great. And if it doesn't work as a condo, perhaps it works as a single-family house, and then you have a different animal. And if the thing was put back together as a single-family house, you'd probably have a $2 million structure in the middle of downtown versus split-up condos. And, you know, I don't know what you get into zoning-wise with something like that. That's a question for
and that's not
Isaac. But I'm just saying maybe there's a different way to look at putting it back together that makes more financial sense in the current way.
I'm I'm sure you guys have looked at all of the different things to do. Dave?
To continue along with the thought that you had about Mr. Wyckoff, about the difficulties of making this into an appropriate, useful condominium project. That, I think you're right. I think you're right. There could just see fireproofing issues, all kinds of things that could crop up that have an impact on the project like this, particularly because we're reaching into a dark box. But that can't be a reason to tear a building down. I think that's part of the issue that we're all trying to grapple with, is that's just a place too far to say that because a building can't be successfully condominiumized, it probably doesn't need to exist any longer. Okay.
And to be fair, I don't think that that's what they
Oh, no,
said.
I'm just chasing the argument around, because we're all, I think, all trying to figure out where we stand.
Yeah.
I think you were correct in wondering about the engineer. But I'd like to suggest to you that we've heard from their engineer. We are at an engineering deficit here. And our charge, I believe, and I could be way wrong, but our charge is to give the architecture of our community the best chance it can possibly have to become part of the future of this community, too. And hiring our, so to speak, our own engineer to help us understand what the ramifications of that are, I think is a valuable thing. I don't think it's to be in contrary, but to fill out the picture. I believe that we've only really heard what can best be described as one person's opinion about this, an educated opinion, but with a point of view. So there is I have a problem, not unlike Mr. Wyckoff's, is I've been there and done that, and if anybody would really like to know, I am a damned expert. So it's difficult for me to say that something is or isn't, but it's depressing to hear that two things. One is that right at the moment from the applicant, what we're hearing is all the money in the world, granted not your words, someone else's, but you've repeated, which I can honestly say without question it won't cost all of the money in the world. So, and I'd like to think that whoever said that is trying to be helpful, but I don't think that they succeeded. And the other one, which we did get here tonight as news, is there's no money to be made. And that kind of hits me hard in the gut, that there's no money to be made. I don't know. I'll stop.
I don't want to judge the applicant's ambitions or anything like that. That's
Sure.
not fair. You should judge the application.
And it's not, and financial,
Any purchase of a home is an investment, so any building,
Sure.
you know what I mean? So that's why I
financial
have that.
issues are not really in our.
Yeah, I'm not
understand it's
judging the applicant
full
on that at
story,
all.
But,
And I hope we don't.
Just a couple things.
Sure.
You know, as far as, what we have looked at, is using this property as either a two-family or a single-family home. So in that, it would not be, well, it could be condoized even at that, but it's not falling under the IBC. It's falling under the IRC because of the number of units. So, there is a slightly less of a threshold, I guess, because it's of the residential code. But even with that, as we've kind of described previously, as what we've shown, as what we're doing next door, there are structural requirements that have to be met because of the where the structure's at this point. And fire ratings, and because of proximities to other buildings and stuff, so, and we've never said that it's not possible.
Quickly, about the comment about the money, I guess what I was trying to say is the reason I put this plan as a request, it does not have to do with
Saving money.
profitability. There's obviously, I think this is probably, at least the design being extremely similar to the original building is probably the most modest thing I could have come up with. I'm not adding to a third story or doing, anything crazy, trying to get more square footage or units or anything like that. So that's what I was really getting at.
Good, because you wouldn't have got it.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think Dan wants to speak.
Did you want to say anything, Dan?
I'm hearing good comments on both sides, and I'm still unable to make a decision. I think what we had suggested last time was, let's get someone who knows restoration, who knows, and if he comes back and says it's impossible, then I think, it's a simple decision. But right now, I can't make a decision without that information.
Without extra information.
That's all.
I think about the money. I think about the burden that you're going to be taking on. I do. And if you were to come to us and say, okay, you've rejected a total tear down and rebuild, what if I tore down the back half? And I would say, I'll work with you to find a way to make this feasible for you. And because we don't want you hurt financially, because then you can't be a good steward of this building. So if you were to, that's why I was asking for options. If you could say to us, look, maybe you take down this portion and make it more, rebuild something that's compatible with the front. I'll be open to that.
Unfortunately, the front is the worst part.
Understood.
But I think just having some of those comments help us
Yeah.
figure out a direction.
Sure.
And not just throwing darts.
Gotcha.
So I guess another concern that I would have as far as the rebuild goes is what would our building inspectors say about adding the foot back onto that foundation? Because that foundation is relatively compromised. They could probably take it apart right down to the largest rocks and then start on the big rocks and build it up, as opposed to just trying to pour 12 inches of concrete on top of what's there. So I'll say that as far as rebuilding the structure. But I will say this to a lot of people that have a romantic feel for this building, and it's a Gothic building, and that's what Gothic is all about, actually. It's a romantic feel, that if it's not savable and it has to be rebuilt, it would have to be rebuilt exactly as it is now, including maybe using some of those old corner boards or the caps on those corner boards, et cetera, besides just the Gothic windows. With the clapboards, we've already talked about lap siding, using the clapboards. So it would look the same, and I know that we have in our charter to try and save historic structures, but primarily we're concerned with how buildings end up looking. That's all I'll say.
So I just had a couple things to throw out, and then we'll get some comment from the public. It sounds like everybody would love to have that little bit of extra information from, we do have a resident expert, but to have an engineer come and give us a report that gives his opinion of what can and how feasible it is to repair this building. I will say that while I've been on the commission, we've had him give us reports on two different projects.
The Times
building, which
the brick building.
which that owner had a couple of other engineers that said, oh, no, it's got to be torn down. And he said, no, it's fine. Then Prospect Street, which he did go through and said, there's really not a whole lot left here. And so then as a commission, most of us felt comfortable with saying, okay, fine, then you can take it down and rebuild it. So just to give you some, it goes either way, but we will, really trust in that expertise as it goes forward. Secondly, I agree with John in that if you were to, if it comes up to a reconstruction of this building, taking it down and rebuilding it, I think we are going to need a lot more information from you as to how exactly, the foundation is going to be, how's it going to look? How much can you salvage from the building that's there now that you can reuse? I know you already had a plan to salvage the windows and a bunch of trim and stuff like that, but just how much can you take? And and some real drawings really to just show how it would be put back together exactly.
Details.
Details. All right, so we're still in a work session, but we can take some public comment. If there's anybody who wants to come up and talk to this.
Hi, good evening. Carrie Votro, Portsmouth Advocates. We're the historic preservation advocacy arm of the Portsmouth Historical Society, located at 10 Middle Street. We provided comments during the last work session, and really I think that the comments are pretty much the same at this point. I'm glad that there was an opportunity for the commission to walk through the building. I think that that was an important step. But we do remain committed to the fact that this is an important historic building in our downtown. It's a contributing resource to the National Register Historic District. It's a unique survivor of this architectural style and even as a wood frame building in our downtown core. So we do fully support the hiring of a third-party structural engineer to provide that expertise from a preservation standpoint. There are great structural engineers. You've mentioned, Structures North and John Watney, who have that specific expertise in historic buildings. So I think that will absolutely benefit not only the commission, but the community as a whole to understand that we have taken every opportunity to truly evaluate what is the right course of action for our historic properties. I'd also like to hear more about what would be required to make the building salvageable. What really is required to bring it up to code as it stands right now? Understanding a little bit more about is it truly replacing every single joist? Is it are we able to sister things? What is required to bring it up to code so that there could be some degree of a comparison? Echoing what Chair Rudig had said earlier, I think if it does come down to it and fully understand that sometimes buildings do get deteriorated beyond reasonable repair, we do need to look at what that true replacement in kind looks like. Is that feasible, given code requirements, given constructability challenges with that urban site? What is actually feasible and what would truly be coming back to the commission for approval? So more than details, overall drawings, I think, are absolutely necessary in order to figure out what that next step is, if that next step truly is reconstruction. Furthermore, again, echoing Chair Rudig's comment, what can be salvaged? Really taking a hard look, especially if you are reconstructing, you want to make sure that you have every tool available to you to ensure that you are able to replace in kind. So you can make that get that knife cut, so you can do what you need to do in order to get those dimensions right, so we don't end up with funky proportions or details that really make this effort miss the mark. So it's an incredibly important property, and I appreciate the fact that you're at the table trying to understand what those next steps are, and we're happy to talk with you more offline too. With Portsmouth Advocates, if that's helpful. So just know that we're interested, and we'd love to see the best possible outcome for this historic structure. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay. All right. So we're not taking a vote since we're just in a work session. Do you guys have any thoughts of how you would like to move forward?
I guess the one thought about the engineer, I guess I'm just a little concerned, like with what his report looks like. Obviously, we don't know what that would be, but unless it sounds like, from maybe what some people have said, is unless this engineer says it's impossible to save, we're going in that other direction, right? Is that
Yeah,
basically?
demolition.
That's what it sounds like.
Can I
That's
talk
what it
about
sounds like.
engineers for 1 minute?
Okay.
On the Times building, the owner of the Times building had 2 engineers. That's the 4-story brick building that sits there with a burned-out lot next to it.
Still
Very
is-
sad.
Still vacant.
Still vacant. No start.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they said, one of their engineers said, that bricks that old were structurally inefficient. They crumble. The building is a threat to be standing there. And I can remember saying to the man, well, you've just condemned every 5 or 6 story brick building in Manchester, Lawrence, Lowell. So they're saying that the bricks, so then our person that we hired, and I think it was John Watney, and, did a very good assessment with it, and, really realizing that it certainly needed some iron inside to compress, be sure the structure's compressed properly, and the floor joists, et cetera. A lot of them were unsafe, a lot of them were burned, et cetera. A lot of work needs to be done on the building, but certainly as structural. I mean, they came up with a complete plan, which hasn't been built, of a 4 or 5 story building, I forget which, right next to it, that actually lines up with the building, and the staircases, fire stairs, and an elevator was in the new building. It all was going to work, and it would work. And so I'm just saying that we are experienced with this, but I do think that maybe we have to take a vote and wonder if we're going to ask the city council to pay, unless you're going to pay for it.
I honestly, I don't think any reputable engineer is going to say it's impossible. Like, even my engineer,
I know where
he
you're
didn't
coming.
use those words.
That's not, well,
I know where you're coming from. You're
You know,
afraid of the engineers.
I think he's reputable, and he didn't say that it was impossible. He just said everything needs to be replaced. So
well, and like I
I
said.
think we're going to get a similar result, obviously with a different twist on the preservation side of things.
It's possible. Like I said, when we did the project on Prospect Street, his report was not that great, so we allowed the demolition. I think it's just having that trained eye to look at it and say, and it's, I don't think similarly, he's not going to say yes or no. It's,
Right.
these are the things that will need to be done, and, and he would come and talk to us too and give his actual opinion, so that it's not just a report, but we can ask him questions, you could ask him questions.
I mean, part of our, oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
I was going to say, part of the discussion and what we were presenting last month was, we know we can reframe the whole building from the inside out.
Right.
You can.
But what are you going to be left with in the end? We're going to be left with sheathing. So many linear feet of trim, some windows, so part of the question was, if we went down the route of rebuilding from the inside out, is it still the building that everyone envisions there now?
Yeah, I'm not afraid to rebuild something from the inside out. That's literally what we're doing right next door right now. This one is a different story with the foundation issues. So
That is definitely the problem.
that's the problem.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. And just to understand the whole process, because, this is the first time I've gone through this, asking for a third opinion and everything. And I do appreciate you pointing out that the one next door, you are willing to build inside out because it doesn't have the foundational issues. If the applicant isn't willing to pay for a third party and say the city council isn't, then where do we go?
Then I guess we don't get it, but that
Go fund
delays
me.
the project that much longer, so. 'cause
Yeah, what's the next step after that? You know what I mean? I want to understand what, we got to have a plan or
I don't think it's going to be one of those wonderful city council things where you end up spending $75,000 or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
It's a very small structure.
Yeah.
He should be able to go through it in a day or so and look at most of the problems and then a report and stuff. It's not.
No, I'm not trying to be sold on it. I just want to
I
understand
know,
what all
but
the
you're
options
afraid
are.
of
I just
committing
wanna-
the city.
Yeah, I mean, we're going through budget season right now, so
Yeah.
I'm a little fiscally conservative.
Fiscally conservative.
I mean, we've never had that situation where we weren't able to get the third-party
Yeah.
engineer, so I don't really know, and it doesn't really,
So sorry to interrupt. I mean, I also don't think the city should have to pay for a building I own, so I would vote against that. So you have picked an engineer, or you would pick an engineer that?
We have a go-to guy.
You have a guy,
go-to
Structures
guy.
North,
yes,
so I can.
you can
Call him up.
contact him, and explain to him the situation, and he'll say, oh, yeah, I know what's, I know
I mean,
what's
he
going
could
on.
go through the building with the engineer. Mr.
Oh,
Wall.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. I
to
mean,
be sure that, nothing funny's going on here.
no, that's what we would expect, that you, I mean,
Yeah.
if you were to pay for this,
Right.
he would be your engineer, but it would be,
Just who you want to hire. Yeah, I get it.
Well, help me understand something. You made a comment about 10 minutes ago that you said even your current engineer said it's not impossible.
Yeah.
He
Correct?
didn't use those words, no. He
But
said that
expensive.
everything needs to be rebuilt, and it was extremely dangerous condition, potentially, in a situation where it could collapse. And his main concerns were in the report stated, and it relates to all the structural issues, and combining that with the building inspector's comments on his recommendation that it should be torn down. No one has used the word impossible. It's just, the biggest thing for me is it doesn't make sense to do that, and I don't think it does, but we'll have to think on it some more, I guess.
Could I just ask everybody that went to it, did it feel dangerous to you walking through it? Did you feel that,
I jumped up and down on the floors.
okay, David?
It was very tidy.
yes.
There was stuff not there, clearly, but it was very tidy, and what was there all seemed like it was capable of doing the thing that it did. I'm not saying the whole building's there, but there was no wall that felt like it was going to fall. There was no shakiness of it whatsoever.
So
I'd
it's
send a full
probably-
crew into the place myself, and it would begin like any wise person in this condition with shoring the building, to brace some bracing, and you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly what you're talking about.
And then set it up on rollers and drag it into the middle of the court, get a backhoe in to dig a hole, pour a foundation, and slide it back over. Do it all the time. Do it all the
I
time.
don't know if you remember the State Street bookstore, what was it, the Union Bookstore?
Yes.
And that was a situation where the
Great.
fire department would not let anybody go into the building. It was a 3-story brick building, but the bricks had bulged out a foot and a half for, a good 15 or 20 feet of height, and the floor joists were actually not going into the bricks anymore. And it was an emergency, and we had to vote on that, and it went down the next week or something. It was just, it was-
That was human, all caused by human beings. Cutting,
I
it used to
mean,
be a
lot
car
of this
dealership.
This damage in
Yes,
this building is
indeed.
caused by.
This is not a flaw, an inherent flaw in the building,
Yeah.
mid-19th century architecture, the craftsmanship. One of the statements in
That
tonight's.
bothered me,
Oh,
that statement.
It just seemed like, that was just a play, I say pejorative things, but I just don't believe reading them like this makes sense. Yes.
To your comment, I actually
Reagan,
just
may-
had to check the map to get the
may I
street
inter-
name, but.
Oh,
Oh,
Jack?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you,
I
Liza.
need to leave for my other meeting. If I could just make 2 comments.
Sure.
One is the question about what's the value of rebuilding this from the inside out versus tearing it down and just completely replicating it. And I would compare Colonial Williamsburg to Strawberry Bank. Strawberry Bank could have done what Colonial Williamsburg did and just make replicas. But that's not really what Portsmouth is about. We're not a replica city. We try to be authentic. Maybe it seems sentimental, but that seems to be what we value, is authenticity. And then the other comment that I'm going to make before I leave is that you may or may not be voting tonight, and this is not a vote, but this is a strong statement that I absolutely cannot make a decision about allowing the demolition of this building without a third-party assessment and an opportunity to speak with a person who makes that assessment. And that I think in the long run, the applicant will benefit from having that because it will probably inform his plan going forward. If the plan is to either demolition but then try to rebuild in as authentic a way as possible, or proceed with the restoration. I think in either case, you will benefit from it. Thank you.
Thanks, Margot.
And bye.
Good night. All right. So,
I was just going to say that I think her comments were great, and I had to look at the map, but actually Strawberry Bank just did that with the building. Dave lifted it up, repoured the whole foundation, set it down, and any of those buildings are worth a whole lot more than a brand new condo. So to me, the building screams like restored, and somebody's going to buy it as a single-family house. You know what I'm saying? I think it's something worth trying to save and getting an independent, and I stress the word independent, third party.
What do we do?
So, well, at this point, we can still continue this and allow you time to either hire John Watney or talk to him at least and try and hire him and see if he can come and give us a report. Or it sounds like if you wanted to just proceed with restoration, you could do that too. That seems to be the...
Yeah, I'd suggest we continue it, and then,
Yeah.
we could figure out our options and talk to the engineer.
I would like to continue.
All right.
And there are spectrums in there as well.
Yep. All right, great. So we will continue the work session public hearing until next month. If you don't have it by next month, you can always postpone, whatever works for you.
So moved?
Thank you. Thank you. All right. It looks like Margot's gone, so now we can all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed?
Sean,
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for working.
Another tough night, good for you.
Best wishes.
Okay. Public hearing, as everybody's coming up. This is public hearings, new business, number 1, petition of Faribault Family Revocable Trust of 2019, owner for property located at 35 Park Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, replace all existing windows, as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 148 as Lot 45 and lies within the General Residence A and Historic Districts. Who is here to, all right, please come up and introduce yourselves.
We
are Ruth and Bill Faribault, owners of 35 Park Street.
Hi,
are.
welcome.
So part of the petition is wrong. It's not actually, we're not asking to replace all of the windows. We're asking to replace the remaining 12 and make them just like the others that have already been approved and installed in the building. We've been here quite a few times over the last few years. We've also been to the zoning board and become a multifamily dwelling and made the second story into an apartment, which is very successful. And while we did that, we made some other changes to the house too. We changed the front and took out the funny little entranceway that was already there. And the siding was already inside, and now the front looks like it did originally. all the windows that we put in the house are energy-efficient windows. They have all kept the mullion design of 8/1 throughout the whole house. And we also put in a very nice paver walkway from the front door where our tenants now enter, because the old asphalt one was just a big jumble, a big mess, because we had one of those downspouts and a tree went down in our front yard and destroyed a lot of that area. So we feel that this is probably our last trip here. This is about the last thing. And I went back to look at some of our other applications for things, and one of them said that our ongoing plan is to improve exterior condition and appearance in stages. And we have indeed done these stages. And these last 12 windows on the first floor were probably the most horrific things that needed, the worst looking things that needed to be fixed even from the get-go. They're all broken. We can't get them up or down. We can't wash them. If we do get them up, they have to be held up with sticks. They have those old, terrible gunmetal, dark metal storm windows that don't work either. And you can't really even see what the windows are because the glass is such a mess. So basically, we're just simply asking for permission to do the last stage of what we've already started. And two of our neighbors have actually come by who saw the notice. Of course, we'd already heard from our neighbors across the street. That's Bob and Patty Bogartis. They said they think the house looks great. And a woman, Susan Denenberg and Tim Wheelock from 44 Wybird Street, stopped by just as we were leaving. They were out walking their dog and said that they didn't have any objections and thought we'd done a great job with the house and it looked better than it had as far as they could remember. So we're hoping you're looking favorably on this.
Thank you. And I will just say that this is another one of those funny instances where the boundary line of the historic district cuts right through their house, which is not how it should be. And that's, once we get through this current set of challenges that we're in, I would like to actually go through and address our boundary line on Middle Street so that it captures parcels and not cuts through the middle of the house, so that it's very clear what is in the historic district and what is not.
Well, our house is in New England Cape, but it really isn't an historic house.
Right.
But
How old is it?
20 years.
Well, the town has it
1950.
has it listed as 1940, but Patty across the street grew up in that house. They've done the house over, but she was a little girl there, and she said that she knows it was built in 1950 because the kids all played in that lot across the street. So I think it's really 1950.
Yeah, and that sounds about right, and it is historic. I'll just let you know. Anything that 50 years is generally the cutoff where we consider buildings historic.
Oh,
So,
I thought it was 100 years for
no,
antiques.
No, so be proud of your historic home, and you've done a great job taking care of your historic home. But I will open it up to the commission here if they have any questions or comments on this application.
I don't have any question. I'll just simply say that given the kind of the language of the building and everything, I see no reason to deny this application. I'll support it.
Rich?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, considering since the historic district is, I mean, I think our intention is actually to make the front row of the historic district, and this is kind of behind, so I think we should let the applicant do whatever they would like.
One other thing that I didn't mention is, after the storm windows come off and so forth, outside it's going to need some help. But we've hired a Mr. Craig Lawrence, who's actually works for a lot of people in our neighborhood, and he's a really excellent carpenter. And he's agreed to make the outside look really good.
Good.
Awesome.
Yes,
So
John?
that's good.
Yes, so your intention would be to remove all of those storm windows?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, you can't, no, I just can't even tell you how really repulsive those things were.
Oh, I know
And
those
are.
windows.
I have them too. They're probably original to your house.
Yes.
Yeah, they could be.
But it's not any fun when you can't lift them up and down and you can't get fresh air, and they don't really help in the winter, and they're a huge annoyance in the summer. And
Help a little bit.
they're all bent and busted, and they have been for just years.
So I would just like to say I'm certainly not going to, stand up against this just because they're vinyl windows. However, there's one problem that you might have to bring in the specifications for these windows, because usually we don't pass any kind of project without anything. And there's nothing but a price list or whatever this is.
Well, on the upstairs windows that were also vinyl, first ones we put in, we have the mullions put on.
That's right, I
And
remember
I've
that.
spoken with Mr. Lawrence about putting those on the other windows all around the front
Yes.
of the house.
There are
So-
also 2 escape windows that we had to put in
Because of the apartment.
because
yes.
of the apartments.
But you agreed to let us
So
do
we
whatever we
did
had
that.
to do for
Yeah. Yeah.
egress and ingress.
So we could stipulate that.
So just like the windows up on the second floor, are you saying that you're going to put vinyl
Well-
windows on and have?
Yes,
the
they're already,
the
they're on
muntins
the ones
made?
on the second story.
Right.
And there are little strips that you just put on the outside so
Right.
that, so that it has a better
Right.
look than just the mullions being inside the glass.
Right. I mean, again, I don't think that I'm going to really,
Well,
Be
when
totally
it was
against this.
approved before, the Historic District Commission said, okay, we will approve this if you will put those on there. And we said, oh, yes, we
yes.
will.
Yes. So, no, my only recommendation would be for a better quality window where you have, that comes with the muntins already on them and has, on the interior and exterior of the window, so that you're not, just for longevity's sake, attaching anything to the outside of the window always runs the risk of, at some point, it's going to pop off. And then it's a maintenance problem. So there are windows out there, we deal with them all the time, where they have, they're already manufactured with the muntins, the
Well,
grid on them.
except that I already have a contract with DeBella for the windows.
Okay.
Otherwise, if I had done that, I could have looked further, I suppose, but I
Madam
thought
Chair?
that what we did before would be fine.
Yeah. Yes.
I'd like to suggest that allowing them to complete the project that they've begun, that the very least the commission could do is be consistent.
Yep. Absolutely.
I think you've done an excellent job with this property. It looks like a cheerful little cottage somewhere in the English countryside. I mean, my hat's off to you, and I don't have a hat on.
Well, thank you.
But I think it's really, really nice, and I certainly understand your desire that you want your windows to match.
Yes.
And I totally support what you want to do. I think you've done a great job and shown fantastic judgment.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've tried very hard.
That's great. All right.
One
Yeah.
other thing. There was somebody years ago that used to say that we would be setting a precedent on something like this. So I just want this to be very clear that this is not a precedent
No.
for glass wing windows.
Right. It is not.
Hopefully I want that in the minutes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, perhaps when you redo, we won't actually be in the district anymore.
Nope.
that
Fine.
might happen. All right. Anyone from the public wishing to speak to this? Anyone online?
I don't see anyone with a hand up.
Okay, great. Well, then I will close the public hearing and wait for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second?
All right. Can you please provide some purpose and intent?
It is compatible with the existing, it's compatible with the existing environment. It's, and it's consistent with the special and defining characters of the surrounding property. And it preserves the integrity of the district.
Thank you.
Did we want to stipulate half screens? It's not explicit in the.
Do you
applica- I don't
plan
know
to
if-
put half screens on the windows, not full screens covering
Yes.
the whole? Okay, thank you. So that will just be a stipulation in there, but I'm glad to hear that's already the plan. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All
Thanks
right.
a lot.
Number 2, petition of
Playing right now.
2082 IL 50VZ LLC owner for property located at 404 Islington Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, changes to a previously approved design, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 145 as Lot 3 and lies within the Character District 4L1 and Historic Districts. Who is here to present this one?
Good evening. I am Sarah Howard. I am from Market Square Architects, and with me tonight is Tim Johnson, the owner of Martin Hill Inn. So I'd like to just go through a little bit of context before we go through the package. Most of the work challenges that we had for this project are in regards to some wood rot and a tree limb damage that was discovered during the construction process, and a window substitution that the builder represented as an equal while the owner was away. There's obviously a disconnect during the construction, as the unplanned work should have come in front of the board prior to being constructed. However, once the owner was back in town, he brought it to our attention, and so we're bringing it to the board now to memorialize and get that approved. Okay. So the first sheet is just our standard cover sheet showing the locust map.
Oops, watch that.
I should put it on the other side. The sheet number 2 it represents the extent of the areas of alteration, the front stair and landing, the front door, and then in the back there's a rear series of steps and landing there. Sheet number 3 indicates the proposed work. There was some wood rot found during the construction at both of the front and rear, and the rear was damaged from a tree limb the tree has since been removed. The proposed door for that front landing shall be a 9-light 2-panel door, similar in style to what was originally there. What's currently there is not what we're going to keep. We're going to take it out and replace it with a standard size 36-inch door. That particular door and stair landing is screened by an existing privacy fence, and the stairs that are there will be removed and reconstructed flush with the interior first floor, so they'll be code compliant from a commercial space. Sheet number 4 articulates the north elevation and just kind of an enlarged version of that, so you can see where that door location will be, and it calls out the materials in there. Sheet 5 articulates the amount of work that was constructed, that was unplanned. It doesn't show the tree because it's been removed, but that deck area was the spot that was damaged. We will be having, the intent is to have it look the way it is. However, we will be rebuilding the stair and landing so that that one is also flush with the first floor, but the intent is to put the same materials and stuff back. Sheet 6 is just an enlarged stair plan for the front stair. It kind of gives you dimensions and a section through that. It also shows the Trek Select deck railing that was installed in the rear, and so we would just look to use the same materials as in the front. And then the last sheet shows a cut sheet of the windows that were installed. Obviously the window modification was required for life safety egress from the fire department as part of an interior renovation. The original windows were wood, double hung, but did not meet the egress requirements from those in rooms. So we did switch them to a casement. We feel the general aesthetic is similar to the intent of what was approved before, as it's the same color. It has that check rail that we had requested. It has the simulated divided lights, and it's the correct size. However, it's not an apples to apples. It is obviously a vinyl window. These particular windows are not street facing. They are tucked over to the side and the rear and are not overly visible to the public. Does the board have any comments?
Anybody have any comments, questions?
You've done an amazing job with this inn. Incredible grounds and incredible expansion to the new sections to it. But this is the original section. It's about 70% original windows, and it's clapboard. And it would be, and you have the few vinyl, the one for egress. But I think it would be important to continue to preserve this and continue to add wood windows for this, even if they're not showing.
We're not modifying any additional windows. We only modified the ones that were required for egress.
Okay,
So-
you're not,
so
so
we-
the ones that vinyl that I walked around today and saw are the ones you want approval of?
Yes, we previously had them approved for a fiberglass window, and the builder substitute did a vinyl window instead. So they look generally the same. The aesthetic, the overall aesthetic would have been similar. They're just a vinyl window instead of the fiberglass.
It's easy to see which is wood, which
Yes,
is vinyl.
yes.
They don't look the same, but the fact that they're required in the back, then that makes me feel better.
Anyone else? John?
Where are these windows again? Can somebody point out?
Yeah, so on the,
Windows are you replacing?
we replaced 4.
You replaced 4?
They were previously approved to be replaced with a fiberglass window,
Yes.
and they were replaced with a
And your
vinyl
builder
window.
decided, what the heck, I'm going to use Window World because I can get them for $200 a piece.
I'm not the builder. I'm not, I can't say what he was thinking.
So I'm just, this is the reality that I see. That the builder did this just to save money. And basically ignoring any, any approval that we gave him.
The previous approval did say, or architect approved equal. He did not submit anything to us for that
Yeah.
review.
But
It's
we've talked about
unfortunate.
this.
No, we would obviously prefer it not to be vinyl. We would prefer it to be what we had approved. However, we are where we are.
I understand. I would just like to say to the commission that we talked about this 3 or 4 months ago on Maplewood Avenue when the builder decided not to use round columns on the back of the building. He decided to just build square ones himself, and it came back at us. And we eventually caved on that. But we discussed, when is enough of enough? And that's what I'm saying. Is this enough? Is this the straw that broke the camel's back, or what are we gonna do? Got no problem with the reconstruction of the stairs and deck and such.
Yes, Martin?
These Window World windows, they are in the very back, correct?
Yeah, so if you look at the top, the middle top image and the bottom image, so the middle top is a picture from the public way, the public sidewalk, looking down. So that little canopy is over the main entrance to the inn. So they're actually, the windows are on a side, 2 of them are on the side, and then if you scroll down, Isaac, the other 2 windows are on the back, tucked away, nestled between buildings. You can't see them.
Okay.
Except from the grounds.
That really is your front facade. And we approved a vinyl window.
You approved a fiberglass window.
I'm sorry, a fiberglass window. Was it all fiberglass?
Yes, it was the Marvin Elevate. Thank you.
Okay,
I
not
can't
a
remember the exact
clad
word.
fiber, okay.
That's clad.
All right. No more questions.
All right. Well, I understand this sort of thing happens. There are plenty of people who are not familiar with working with the Historic District Commission and approvals and set approved plans. However, we also are really struggling. We've had, for whatever reason, several applications come to us lately with asking for vinyl windows. And we really, really struggle with that. We generally say no as a flat rule to
Yeah.
vinyl windows in the
We
historic district.
generally don't bring vinyl windows to you.
Right. Right. I know you know this. So it's one of those things where it makes me uncomfortable to say, sure, it's fine, they're already in, just keep them, because that may open the door for other people to do that and be like, oops, sorry, we have vinyl windows, can we just keep them? I also hate to see something that's installed just be tossed out and thrown into a landfill simply because it's not the desired kind. So personally, I'm a little bit torn as to whether or not we want to see the windows on the side, which is the true facade of the house, be replaced with the proper fiberglass window, or just allow the vinyl to remain. And I would love to hear what other commissioners think about this.
I think the property is very attractive, very tasteful. I was not here when they approved fiberglass. That must have been before my time. But the fact that a contractor made a genuine mistake, I can believe that.
Doesn't matter.
And I think it would be not reasonable to ask you to pay twice to install a window. You were not a very honest person. You wouldn't be here telling us that he installed the wrong window. So that speaks volumes, and that tells me that your character is such that, look, I just want to be truthful with what happened, okay? And I could not vote to make you spend more money. You were obviously very honest that you came here to say, look, contractor put in the wrong thing. I'm sorry, wasn't my decision. He did it. We didn't know about it. I believe that, or you wouldn't even be here. So,
Thank you. Yeah.
Can I?
Yes.
Are there storm windows over these windows?
The existing ones do still, yes.
The existing windows.
There are storm windows over. Okay, so I can live with this. You probably could, with the storm windows, it's gonna not be obvious that you have a lesser quality, non-historic window there. And for that, I'm reluctantly willing to overlook this.
They have storm windows over all their wooden windows, but I don't know on the vinyl one.
Yeah, I don't think we're allowed to have storm windows over an egress. The old,
On the egress one?
yeah. But the original wood windows do have the storms, yes.
no. I don't know.
Any thoughts over here?
Must be.
These aren't my favorite applications either.
It only thing, I mean, find myself in complete agreement with you that it's one thing to feel like letting some things go, human nature and whatnot, but when it's something that you really, over time, have grown really negative feelings about and have had to defend your position to others in the past, and now you're just going to say, oh, well, it's okay. I don't get it. I don't get how that works. I don't get what kind of message that provides. But I'm from a different kind of world. I'm not a pleasant person. I didn't live in a pleasant world.
Okay. No, I'm not going to say anything more.
Yes, I know, it's deserved. I got it.
No. All right.
Can I just add
Sure.
one more thing?
Sure.
To that comment, we can't say we're going to crack down on these people because of the last 5 applicants that didn't follow the rules. That's not fair. That's not appropriate.
It's not.
Certain level of integrity, though. I remember when someone put in the wrong windows on Islington Street within a stone's throw, as one might say, of this building, and the hammer came down on them.
Yeah.
It wasn't a species issue, it was a dimension issue. But ultimately, it's the same thing. They got an approval for one thing, they did something else, and the commission, I thought, pulled their pants up tight and decided to do the right thing. at least a thing that's remembered well by the rest of the community, maybe not the applicant. Who are you representing here tonight?
You know, the alternate, I mean, the idea could be that this could become even more of a problem because people could realize that all they have to do is do it. And then
that
come
was
in
my
front
point.
of us and say, well, geez, we've already done it.
That was my point, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could become more popular.
Right.
So, with that in mind.
Well, all right.
I have a question
Yes.
for Isaac. Do you do a follow-up to see what we approved and what they put in and all that?
Right. So Vincent Hayes in our department will go once an inspection has been started. He will go and make sure that land use approvals have been followed. So
It hasn't gotten this
that's
far yet.
Did he?
no, that's actually
That's
why
the-
we're here now.
Oh, okay, so you picked it up.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Thank you, Vincent.
Would it be wholly inappropriate to suggest that we could continue this and leave the applicant an opportunity to maybe find another more pleasant solution than what I'm thinking now?
We could, but I think it's up to you. I mean, would the applicant and owner be willing to at least entertain the idea of, on the two windows that face the side that are more visible, replace them with the properly approved window?
Sure. Can I, as a general.
Please come up and talk into the, yeah.
Tim Johnson, pleasure to meet you all. I do have just a general question. I understand the question or request. What is the fundamental difference between fiberglass and the hardened vinyl, heavy-duty vinyl construction of the window we're talking about?
I'll let our expert builders answer that.
Well, the windows are wood windows that are clad.
They're fiber.
You think they're hollow?
That's what the cut sheets showed.
That's what the
Or-
spec sheet does?
If I recall correctly, they elevate.
For the
They're
margin,
not.
elevate?
It's not clad.
The grill system, the simulated divided light, does have the grills permanently attached to the outside and the inside of the windows with the spacer bar.
That's what we have here as well.
You have that also?
Correct.
Okay.
That's what we meant by generally the aesthetic is the general aesthetic was achieved. They
I
hit,
guess I
they
don't
hit the points,
understand,
just
I
not the
don't
material.
understand architect talk sometimes. you know.
I know, John.
All right,
And having seen the bill, I know they were a lot more than $200.
yeah. Well, with the grills on the outside and stuff. yeah.
I would just say that your question is a good question. I thought the same thing. Are you really, are we really making a solid stand here? And I can't see the real distinction between an unnatural material of fiberglass and an unnatural material of vinyl.
Yeah. I personally I live in Newburyport, and I know the home I live in is about 1850s. And we have some replacement windows in there that are Harvey vinyl. They're not great, I'll tell you that. These ones are, I quite frankly are impressed by the hardiness and the construction of them. I've used them. They've been used in other properties that, in property in Winthrop is a simple example, where it's right over the airport. They do these windows. I understand from a material perspective, but I was impressed by them, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think given that it's in the back and that we're not deciding between a natural material and unnatural, I'm not going to force any heartache over the applicant.
Okay. All right, well, we've gone through this. Let's get to a vote. But first, is there anyone in the public who would like to speak to this application? Nobody? All right, so I'll close the public hearing and wait for a motion. It's the pleasure of the commission.
I will make a motion to approve as presented. I believe there were no stipulations. I agree with all the sentiment. This is not where we want to be. I don't think it's where the applicant wants to be. I just feel that some of the circumstances don't rise up to the point where we need to take a severe stand and say, you know, it's this way and only this way, and you have to remove these, and there'll be a big difference. There'll be a big change in the long run. So I'd say that this is compatible with the special and defining character of the district, and is consistent with the special. It's compatible. It's it relates to the historical and architectural value of the existing structures.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Okay, now it's up to me. Chair votes aye on this one, reluctantly, very reluctantly. So I guess that's, what is that, 4-3? Okay, so,
That's it.
Thank you.
thank you.
Have a good night.
All right, number 3 is the petition of Pappas M. Sons LLC, owner for property located at 13 Congress Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, replace second-story windows, replace wood storefront and signage, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 117 as Lot 13 and lies within the Character District 5, Downtown Overlay and Historic Districts. All right, who's here to present?
Hi, good evening. Mark Pelletier with Mogul DeStefano Architects. I'm representing Pappas and Sons. As you can see, the property, we're just simply replacing existing windows and storefront and the signage, which is over iLook. And this building is cast concrete with the water damage that has occurred over the years. The second floor windows, there are 3 large punched openings that are wood frame windows that are, the sills are basically rotted beyond repair. And that water is traced down behind the iLook sign, which happens to be painted plywood, and is delaminating, and the water is filtering in just above the soffit over the blue awning, and traveling down, and has rotted the window frames of the iLook storefront. So we're looking to do some repairs here and replace the windows with Impervia windows up on the Pella Impervia windows on the second floor, and then do a Conair storefront 451T system, which is in keeping with the adjacent storefront of the works. There will also, I should mention, there will be the signage will be replaced with a cementitious panel to match the adjacent panels next to it. Something that would be more durable and resistant to the water infiltration. We're not really sure what's behind that until we pull that off, but that is the idea, is to reflash it and channel the water away from the building. There's also some control joints that we'll be replacing and matching in kind with the adjacent colors of the concrete.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's it.
Is it? Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
When you replace the 10 lights of window, 10 window units
up on the second
on
floor?
the top, what would be, you're calling the second floor?
Yes. Yep.
Do you intend to, what kind of glass you could put in? Currently, they have patterned glass in them.
Yeah, it's a textured dimpled glass. I don't believe that's the desire of our client. We were just going to replace it with a clear glazing, an insulated glazing.
Is there actual space behind these windows?
There is some space behind it. Have never been into the tenant space.
I never have either. We have two other buildings of the same period in town. One, the Hartford printing building, and the old Montgomery Ward building, which actually has a very similar precast concrete facade. And they both have found a way somehow to retain their patterned glass. We don't have a lot of it in town, but these three buildings share that in common. I'd hate to see that glass go. Although, truth is the one on the far right's already been replaced with a similar but not identical pattern.
Yeah.
And the three of the 4 unit on the far left have been replaced with plain glass, and it's real obvious if you look at it.
I would recommend like an acid etched glass, but are you suggesting a textured glass?
Well,
Because
I know very little about it, and we don't have a huge history about it in the town, other than we have 3 buildings with patterned glass in them. And I don't see the argument for not doing it, but just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, no, I didn't see the historic relevance of the glass itself, so I didn't really
Sure.
take that approach.
Well, thank you.
Anything else, Martin?
I would agree with Mr. Adams that there's not a lot here, this Art Deco building. So yeah, I think a patterned glass would be appropriate. I don't think there's a second floor there. I think this is almost like a window, like a display window, or maybe it was at one point in time. I think there's something odd going on.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a full story up there, but that's besides the point. So I see no reason to, I think all the changes are appropriate. But yeah, let's match the glass, I would say.
Okay.
Anybody else? Does anybody have heartburn about the storefront windows? Or the wood storefront being?
No. I mean, considering the fact that they are, going to be matching what's existing on the works.
Okay. All right.
May I? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
To seek out a glazing system that would match the textured glass, we probably wouldn't be able to use like the Pella Impervia system. I would probably need to go to an aluminum framed system. Would that be acceptable?
So they don't open? They wouldn't open?
No,
They
are
don't
just
open
fixed.
now.
Yeah,
Oh.
No, they don't open now. They're just fixed glass.
I don't think it would matter.
No.
I mean, there have been plenty of other aluminum storefront window applications around. It wouldn't be out of the ordinary.
Great.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Everything else looks good? All right. Anyone from the public wanting to come talk about this application? Anyone online? All right, fine. And close the public hearing and wait a motion.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to move that we approve this with the stipulation that patterned glass, similar to the patterned glasses there now, if not identical, would be required on the second floor windows.
And they would come back for
If-
admin approval? Or,
If he has issues with the framing or the materials that are surrounding it, then I would think an admin approval would be fine for that. The framing of the sashes is not the element here that we're looking for.
right.
I would second that.
Just
And
one quick question, if you don't mind. I think I did hear prior that there might have been a replacement on one of the patterned windows with a new pattern that may not match exactly. So
That's
is
correct.
there a is one pattern over the other that we would want, I just for clarification purposes.
I don't think so. I think the whole point of it is the glass is opaque in that sense. Not so much that it's frosted, but it's opaque in a particular way, because these aren't windows, as Mr. Ryan spoke, that anyone really is going to be looking out. Okay, and I would like to say that this represents the conservation of property values and the historic significance of the building.
And I'll just answer too, if it would make it better for the administration of this, I don't know, if you still would bring back whatever you're going to use, just send it to Isaac for administrative approval, just so that we have it on record.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And may I note that the frame, it's acceptable to go to an aluminum frame.
Just give us the plans of what you want to do.
Perfect.
And, yeah. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck. All right. Our last public hearing is number 4, petition of Ronald First Revocable Trust, owner for property located at 238 Marcy Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, removal of a non-functioning chimney, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 103 as Lot 52 and lies within the General Residence B and Historic Districts.
I do believe we have Mr. First on Zoom, if
Okay,
you can
great.
hear us.
I hear you.
Okay, great. Hello. Would you like to introduce yourself and present your application?
Sure. I feel like there isn't a lot to talk about, but my name is Peter First. I live at 240 Marcy Street. We have 2 chimneys. One is used for, I guess, this event for the natural gas furnace. And this other chimney that we are requesting to be removed, I'm standing right next to it. It hasn't been used in at least 40 years. My father once had a stove hooked up to it, but it hasn't been operating for years, and it just leaks a lot of water every time there's a storm. And at this point, when we tried to get it repaired, they told us to remove it because it's not worth fixing. It would have to be completely rebuilt. I can see the value in a beautiful chimney, but this isn't one of the prettiest chimneys in the neighborhood. Yeah, here's some images of it now. So it is what it is. The Mary Chimney Company is our contractor for this, and yeah, it was their expert opinion that it wasn't worth fixing and it should be torn down.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
No.
Where's the other chimney?
The other chimney, it's on the other side of the roof. I guess it's in sort of the center of the house, so I guess you can't see it from any of these pictures. And that one's in pretty good condition. We're getting that one repaired.
I see it now. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, it's a side-facing.
You can barely see it from up there.
Right. It's a side-facing building, and the facade is facing sideways, so it's not facing the street, but it's right there in the center.
Yep.
Anything else?
Yeah, it has a lot of bricks that have fallen off already, and it's become a bit of a hazard at this point.
Well,
I take no objection to this. You're maintaining a chimney. We hate to lose chimneys. They're part of the skyline. But I can appreciate your dilemma, and I can support this.
Observations on this end, it's the other chimney is they're retaining as the primary chimney to the building. I believe, although the building may be older than that chimney's been there for since the building's been renovated into its condition. At least 120 years. The one that they're proposing looks like it was built in the 20s for the use in a oil stove in the kitchen or something. And I don't think that it's in the pattern replacement that is evocative or indicative of the age or construction of the house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Anyone from the public want to speak to this? Do they have a problem with taking down a chimney that might fall down on its own? All right. And close the public hearing. I'd like a motion.
I'll move to approve the application as presented.
I'll second.
I believe it preserves the integrity of the district and is compatibly designed with surrounding properties. I mean, it's more of a safety thing at this point.
Right. All right. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Okay, so now on to work sessions. This is our last application of the night. Work session requested by Argeris and Eloise Carabellis, owners for property located at 461 Court Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior construction to an existing structure, construct a two-story rear addition to the main structure, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 105 as Lot 7 and lies within the Character District 4L1 and Historic Districts. All right. Shall we all go down to the table? Hello.
Hey,
All right.
Ann Whitney, architect of the project. So what we're proposing, existing brick building, actually was a half house. You can, actually, if you go to the last page, there's, the photos are on there. So what we're proposing is at the rear of the structure, to do a 22 by 30 addition, set back from the existing, there's an existing small kitchen addition right now in that corner, and we're gonna pull it back 12 inches from the existing brick building. And then on the left side, there'll be a porch. So basically a two-story addition, just to get you oriented with the, oh, you want to? The other part of it is that existing wall that was the half house has just one window on the first floor, and we're proposing matching the windows that are on the other side of the house and adding two more openings with the same treatment, with the same windows and detailing and blinds, shutters, I mean. So they wanted to really have much more of a, even though it's a fairly sizable addition, there's still a fair amount of landscaped yard, and they wanted this addition to be able to, the existing house, you don't have a lot of connection with the outside. So they wanted to really open this up at the first floor level, and then, so I've basically got a series of patio French doors that run across the top there with a detailing with pilasters, and then that little roof line with the overhang of the pilasters becomes the porch. So those columns, the porch column will reflect the pilaster columns. And I have a detail of that on the last page. And then we're going up with a simple hip roof. The main place you see this addition is that small the Court Street elevation where it projects out beyond the existing brick structure, where you see the porch with a window above there. So that little piece of roof will not be a hip, just because it's tying into the. So as we go to the coming around the corner, the rear elevation, I'm sort of stopping that detailing with the columns and the moldings, one more set of French doors, and then the rest will be clapboards, and then double hung. Actually, there's one casement window because that's my egress, and then a combination of 4/4 casement and 6/6. The existing house, the windows got replaced, and they're the Marvin aluminum clad, so we'll be matching those. On the east elevation.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are they elevates?
No, they're not elevates. They're
So are elevates hollow?
No, elevate is. So Marvin windows are the aluminum clad. It's an aluminum window with a wood interior. And then when they came up with the Elevate, or it used to be Integrity, they basically created an extrusion of fiberglass, and then it has a wood interior.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm
it's
just trying to figure out what that person was saying previously.
He was saying it was a hollow fiberglass window.
He was saying it's the same as a vinyl window.
Oh, no, not at all. It's a really rugged fiberglass, just like the Marvin.
Okay. I didn't mean to get you off course.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, you could
That's
put it
okay.
on the payroll here.
Well, I know.
Right.
I know she's a Marvin expert because every project is Marvin.
Well, they do good service, and that's a big part of Windows.
What happened to the other half of the house?
What's that?
What happened to the other half of the
Well,
house?
a lot of way back, they'd build one half and then the other half never got built. Yeah.
The Shapleys succeeded in completing the two half houses directly across the street.
Oh, yeah.
But this owner didn't find the cooperative member.
Nope. Yeah, because they're really two houses. It's like a duplex, and really, sort of formal.
When did the single window show up on the
I'm
what
not
would be
sure
the
when that
western
showed
side?
up. I'm not sure. when that-
Long after, obviously after they decided that it was never going to work.
Right, and actually, when I was there, and I should get it, I'll get for the public hearing some better pictures. It looks pretty seamless with the masonry. It didn't look like it was.
Interesting.
So I don't know. That's a good question.
Sorry, distractions.
Yep. So on the east elevation, which you see a bit from Court Street and from Marcy Street, we're extending. There's an existing bay now. I think I do have you can sort of see a shot of that on that final page. We're going to make that a little bit bigger and have a bay. That's the main window for the kitchen, and then there's bathrooms and closet space up above, a couple 4/4s. Windows above that. And we'll be, whatever I do for the crown, I haven't gotten it completely detailed, we'll be doing up on the hip also. The existing building is really simply detailed, so I didn't want to go too overboard with this addition.
But you've got round columns.
No, I thought about that, and I just feel like this, the square columns built up make more sense in this instance, because they really would project much further out and have to build the roof out a lot higher. But the little roof on this elevation, with
The columns kind of, like going out into a Roman garden or something.
Kind of Tuscan, yes.
Yeah. But they are pilasters. They're not freestanding columns.
They're half.
They're half, yeah.
What's going to happen to that beautiful arbor, attached arbor?
That's gonna go. We haven't, I'm at the,
It'll fit on your truck.
we're gonna be reworking, who knows, we may do another one. I needed to get this first stage done.
It's made out of an exotic hardwood, and I'm going to bet that it all gets recycled into something else, in case anyone really wants to know.
Oh, did you know who built it, or?
I do.
Yep.
Yeah, and they were a little frustrated by the fact that the owner wanted it painted.
Was it just mahogany, or?
Yes.
Yeah. But Honduran, like?
No,
No, just
probably African mahogany.
African mahogany, okay.
You couldn't remove it, salvage it, and put it on the yard side of this two-story
It's possible.
addition?
I haven't gotten to we're going to have to be redoing a lot of this landscaping, but I
Shrink it
thought I'd
down.
get the building underway with this work session and then be looking at how we're going
Does
to.
it have glass on top of it or plexiglass on it? Because it looks like it's a carport.
No, it doesn't have any glass on it.
Oh.
Nope.
I like the fact that on your sketches, east elevation and rear elevation, you show, it's not the exact angle, but you show very good comparable hip roofs that go together, your roof lines.
Right, and I
I'm
was a
struggling
little.
for words, it's late.
Yeah. I'd like to have been able to match that hip, but as you see, I don't want to have to get into.
No, I think you did.
Yeah.
I love what you did. I think you did a great job.
I had a quick question about how far you are. I mean, are you going to have to get any zoning
Variances?
variances for the setback and anything?
No,
It looks
because
very
that
close.
particular district, there are just minimal setbacks, and I don't have it right in my head right in the moment, but I did. But when I took this on, it's the first thing I kind of went through, seeing about setbacks. Yeah.
Yeah, and I.
We are going to have a
to
bit
that
of a
end.
challenge, just accessing the site.
Hopefully not getting too far ahead of us, but the design that you've proposed seems very compatible with the building, in my opinion. The public impact of this is minimal.
Minimal.
You've really almost overplayed your hand.
I hate to do that.
I know it, with other people's money.
Yeah.
But unless I'm the contractor, of course, and then it's all right. But what kind of an impact is this going to have on your neighbors? Because that's really, think in terms of what this is going to leave as a lasting footprint in the neighborhood is got to do not so much with what I think of it going by. I think the view that I'm going to get from Court Street is going to be lovely. That little teeny vignette that we're going to get from Marcy Street is going to look very, very sensible. What you've done is really terrific, but what happens to the people, the 9 other people that live on top of this?
Well, on the, if I could just hold this up.
Throwing the 9
I'll just
out.
mention too that we did, just before our meeting, did get some letters. I haven't even had a chance to read through it from the neighbors with concerns about
the scale of it.
Mostly taking up what is now their open space.
Yeah.
And like
Not their open space.
Not
but-
theirs.
Yeah.
They can't look into your yard anymore.
Well, unfortunately, they built right up to the edge. There's actually, this side, there's the garage for this property, and then there's a big driveway, and this is both this property and this faulty are multifamily properties, and they're very tall. And then this one has a deck, and then the building's set back. So yes, but they built pretty close to all their property lines, except for the deck in the back. And can I get those letters from, can you email them to me? Or, yeah, that'd be great.
Essentially, the whole.
They're of the feeling, because they've been here quite a long time, and that they felt like these things are just imposed on their nice property, in terms of their open space. And but part of this project is, we're actually doing an elevator and doing some accessibility on the second floor because of the needed issues. And,
Yeah. In my opinion, people's views, I've said this before, they change depending upon where you're standing. where you're sitting.
And these were,
And, you know,
these are
the,
very intensive developments, both of these at the
Yeah.
time. Yep.
you know, so that doesn't so much bother me.
Okay.
It's
But I'll take a look at those letters. And yep. And plus, we aren't going, the building is a 3-story, and we're keeping it down to a 2-story with a hip roof.
And, you know,
Oh, they got their lawyers.
our,
You got lawyers.
our real purview here and our task with looking at the appearance of these things is mostly not from other people's back decks. It's
Right,
mostly
exactly. It's more from
the
the
rest of the district, so.
District, yep, okay. No, but I'll take that into consideration.
Is this,
Please.
is this wood framed? And it's
Wood
not
frame.
going to be brick? Okay.
Yep.
Clapboard?
Probably clapboard, yep. And then this whole first level will be just all trim panelized.
Okay.
And I did have that final sheet, you know, started developing that.
Well, I think the massing and the scale of it is very appropriate for the existing house, so
And then
I'll give you that.
the only clapboard you really see is on that Court Street, just this little section right here. I didn't think, I looked at different ways of doing this, bringing the panelization up to the second floor, and it all just seemed to wag the simple, nice house.
Thought of that flush board?
What?
Have you, did you
Oh,
consider
flush board? Yeah, I'm not mad about that in terms of longevity. Yeah.
Speaking of which, another time, sorry.
All right.
Okay, are there any
All
other
right, yeah,
questions?
any other comments or questions? I think generally you've heard positive comments on the massing and the scaling and the size, and it all fits very well. It's very, you know, secondary to the main house, and so I think.
It's unusual to have this big a space in the back of a property.
Right,
Yeah.
sure. So you have
And
that.
can I keep this? Is this an extra copy?
And I forwarded the email to you.
He's already
so you don't
forwarded.
miss-
Oh, we already did. Okay.
Take the paper anyways, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Great.
Little bedtime reading.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, that seems like
Good,
move
great,
forward.
thank
So,
you.
do you want to just come back for? A
I think I
public
can
hearing?
pull it off for the deadline, which is the end of next week.
Okay.
I just need to pull some more detailing together, so I'm
right.
going to shoot for that.
Okay. Well,
For-
I don't. For a public hearing.
Public hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah, for a
Okay.
public hearing.
So, nobody else is here. I'm going to assume nobody's online to speak to this.
Nope.
Okay. Then we'll take a motion to close the
So move.
work session. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll see you next month.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and I'll let you know if that's fairly quickly, if that's not going to happen early next week. Yeah, I'll let Isaac know.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, thanks.
I think the only thing that I wanted to just kind of mention to everybody is, I think we finally have, and I don't know if I mentioned it before, or if we've talked about this before, but I think we finally have our confirmation for our certified local government listing, the CLG listing with the state. All of that paperwork is in.
Yes.
I don't know if we've gotten word back from the state yet.
When I had sent that in, it was about maybe now 3 weeks ago we got the final paperwork signed. I did hear that it would or could take 4 to 6 weeks because it does travel to a couple of different
Yep.
folks for sign-offs on their end of things. I was sort of reassured by our representative that our application not only met but sort of exceeded expectation, and that they did not see any reason why we should have any pushback, need to supply anything further. They think that it's pretty much a done deal. It just has to go through all the proper chain of command.
Excellent. All right, great. So that's great news. That's another tool available to us in the future. I think I've had lots of feedback from those at the state saying, like, why on earth isn't Portsmouth certified local government? Because we obviously are well established and we checked all the boxes. So we can more about that when that final certification comes in. But that's good news for us here.
How did your presentation as a council go?
Well, it was exciting. And now we are tasked with working with the planning board they are going to have a public hearing on our proposed ordinance changes next Thursday at their next meeting.
Okay.
So, any of us can go and attend that. I will do my best to be there to answer any questions they may have, but there was some concern a little bit about the wording and some of the definitions, which we struggled with already, so it's not surprising. So I think that the Rick Chelman of the planning board is going to work with the legal department to make sure all of the wording and everything in there is passes muster, is correct, and is appropriate for ordinance speak, and look at trying to, I did a little bit more research to try and figure out other ways to help define minimally visible. That was one of the things that we struggled over, so we're going to try and see if at least so we can find some good documents to reference for that, and there are plenty of documents with the Secretary of Interior and through the National Park Service about what all these things sort of mean and their recommendations that are sort of the nationally accepted.
I was just going to support you and say that I think your use of the word minimally visible is consistent with the Park Service versus what happened in the meeting with 20 feet here or 20 feet there. But minimally visible is a standard language, and that document I provided the other week from Newport, Rhode Island, they use your exact same language. So.
It is. If we can try and at least put some better parameters on there so that it's, minimally visible from the primary facade or your primary, location in front of the house or something like that, to at least give some better definition so that whoever is interpreting this has a better sense of what it means.
So does these changes go back to the council, or where are we now?
It'll go through the public hearing at the planning board. We'll vote on that. If that passes, then we will propose this to the city council meeting on June 6th, something like that, June 3rd.
But yeah, I would encourage everyone to watch the meeting. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth, a lot of questions, a lot of objective versus subjective. So, yeah.
How does our motion, timetable-wise, or get adopted, for instance? How's that in relation to the counter motion? Because if a counter motion moved forward, isn't it possible that the counter motion could actually be adopted before our motion is adopted?
No,
Or not?
it's meant to go in streamline, hand in hand.
Okay.
So the next city council meeting will technically be the second reading for that initial motion, but
In 2 meetings from now.
right,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the one that we are
The
presenting
first
to.
meeting.
So we can propose those changes, and the city council can either accept those changes for the same motion or not. But we got a lot of encouraging support from a lot of the councilors. So
Good.
I think that
Good.
we've worked hard to provide a very reasonable solution.
And I think we got 100% public support. I mean, I was in the ER, but when there was not a doctor in the ER, I was kind of listening like this. But it seemed like the public was 100%, behind.
Yeah, so.
That's very interesting, because I haven't had anybody come up to me and say, well, you guys, what are you guys doing with the solar panels, and all this? I'm getting people that talk to me saying, what are you guys even looking at solar panels for?
Well, these are the people that came.
Objective,
and spoke.
subjective.
These are the people who came and spoke. At the
Yeah. I'll just say what happened. I didn't know we were going to talk about this tonight.
I
'cause it
didn't
wasn't
either.
on the
I wasn't
agenda.
intending to, so we don't have to get into it.
So Monday night, we voted 5-4 to keep slate roofs and wooden roofs under the HCC's purview. And then we to change the language of the ordinance change. So it'd be removing solar panels from HCC's purview except on slate and wooden roofs. So that's the language that got voted to move forward for first reading.
That means a lot of energy we're putting in may have nothing.
That's right.
We're going to try to keep going and do our best, because that's what the whole council asked us to do, was to come to do this. So
The ship sails best when the whole crew goes the same direction.
All right. Unless there's anything else, motion to adjourn.
So moved.